Hi English 3, how's it going? Mr. Rowley here. I'm going to explain the agendas for Monday, April 13th and Tuesday, the 14th, 2020. Glad to see the weather is sunny. Hope you're getting outside. Sure is nice out. And also, tonight's pizza movie night, right? So we're pretty excited about that. We watched the first Star Wars movie last week, and the plan is to watch the second Star Wars movie. My daughter wants to watch a movie with a princess. Did you know that there's a princess in the second Star Wars movie? Okay. So maybe we'll see. That's probably what we're going to do tonight. The agenda today is going to involve there'll be a writing prompt, and then the next step in the research writing assignment is a problem statement and research questions. And it's going to look a little bit like what you did last time. We're just taking it one step farther here. First, let me back up for just a second, get clear on the big picture here. So the goals in this unit, you want to gain in-depth knowledge about some kind of global issue or problem. And when I say global issue, that means something significant. But you could have a local or regional focus too. You could even think in terms of one specific person experiencing the problem that you're describing. So you want to show that you're thinking critically about it, and also just the ability to locate the information that will build background knowledge to help you address or solve the problem. And that's where we got into the databases, the EBSCO and Gale databases. Of course, you can use other things too, but those are great sources there. And then producing a piece of writing, of course. So you want to integrate the information seamlessly into your own writing. It should feel like you know something about it rather than just kind of patchworking together different bits of information. You want to feel like you want to read enough about the topic to get to the point where you feel like you can write about it. And the writing coming out is really sentences produced by your head as opposed to assembling some sort of quilt of source material. We'll talk about citations later. That's not part of today, but just know that's coming, both in text and how to do a works cited page. We'll get to that later. So your paper will look very much like this. So you've got, probably you'll start with an example. Again, think about, if you're doing the gun violence topic, which some of you have expressed some interest in based on that survey, think about one person who's been a victim of gun violence. Or it might even be somebody who, made some bad choices and is incarcerated or whatever. And so that's your specific example of how the problem manifested itself. So, think of it as a story. You actually may want to start the piece with a story, but at the very least, you have one specific example of the problem, and then you define the problem, explain what's led to the problem, what factors are in play that has created the problem, and then at least one way to solve or at least address the problem. And then you probably come back to your specific example there. So this is a structure that really will work, and it looks simple, and it is simple. The key is just building enough background knowledge that you feel like you can write something like this. So before you do the assignment for today, be sure you've done the choose a research topic assignment. Okay, that's the one where you just get down those three elements there plus your example. What's the problem? Define the problem. What's led to the problem? One way to address the problem. Okay, so be sure you've done that assignment first. And then you want to pull up the assignment called Problem Statement and Research Questions. And I'm going to show you what that looks like here. Here's an example. And by the way, this is not something I made up. This is really typically something you would do at a university, or anybody embarking on a big research project writes a statement like this. So you state the broad topic that you're researching, and then you get down to your level of focus. Why is it important, and then what are your goals in writing? So that you're fleshing out the statement of the problem as you see it, along with the focus that you have. This doesn't have to be real long. A few sentences is fine, but it'll really help ground you in what it is you're trying to do here. So let's take that gun violence one, for example. So broad topic, gun violence, and then more specifically, if you look at data, the U.S. versus other countries, you'll find that the gun violence per capita is a lot higher in the U.S. than it is in a lot of other countries. That's starting to change, actually, but historically that's been the case. And then also you notice that the stories that get the headlines are these mass shootings, but statistically, your likelihood of dying in a mass shooting is quite a bit less than an incident of one-on-one violence. So if you were doing this, you'd investigate that data here. Why is it important? Well, like I said, there's a lot of it in this country, a lot of gun violence. And then the specific goals would include investigating specific examples of homicides, looking for common factors, and then also looking at other countries and what they are doing to have lower rates than we do. So that's the problem statement part. And then the questions are just like it sounds. What do you need to know? What questions do you need to answer in order to write this paper? So they can be very basic. They can be general. You want to write questions that can be answered, of course, in some way, although you may want to have some deeper philosophical questions as well. But number one, what is the rate of gun-related homicides in the U.S. and Canada and countries with very few guns? That's a very answerable question. Again, it depends on how you measure some of this stuff, but that's something that has an answer. What other data is relevant to the problem? That's the kind of a question where you're saying, I don't really know what the question is to answer. I don't have the question phrased yet. So you want to keep in mind, again, these are the questions that are driving the research. If you're trying to answer specific questions, it'll keep you from just searching and not really knowing what you're looking for. What are some common factors among gun deaths? What does the U.S. say about gun laws? So if you're writing about this, you want to get really clear on what the laws are. And you probably know that each community, each county has its own rules for purchasing guns, for selling guns, for possessing them. So that gets kind of complicated. So you might just kind of focus on St. Louis County. What are the rules here? What does it take to buy a gun? So that could be one of your questions too. Cure Violence is the name of a program that started, I think, in Chicago, and they've had really good success with taking people who have been through the system and working with people who are at risk for gun violence. And so that's in your ways to address or solve the problem category. So you want to have some questions related to that part of the paper too. Okay, so hope that makes sense. So for today, that's it. So there's a writing prompt. It's top 10 favorite movies, TVs, or other video content. So have some fun with that one. And then the problem statement or research questions is what you're actually turning in. I'm reading writing notebooks right now. The next deadline will be April 22, 23. So you want to be up to 1,500 words by then. Okay, hope you're hanging in there. You can always email me. Let me know if you need help with anything.